Welcome to the Maximum Hustle Podcast, baby. We're coming to you live with Alan and Claudia, and we are about to talk to you about some awesome topics. What other than masculinity and women?
When you're a single guy and you're around all your friends, it's all about, oh, are you gonna get with this girl, or like going out like that? And I could see how that could be toxic masculinity, right?
I was just curious, because I've heard a lot of people just talk about like toxic masculinity and just, by conversation that I have with my girlfriends and stuff.
Rarely do you see like the two feminine energies of them both being very feminine, or like the men where they're both very masculine. So that's interesting, right?
How did you feel? Because in like my relationship currently,
Yes.
I feel like the masculine one.
Yes. There are so many stories. I hope we get into them.
Oh, boy.
And then Claudia, who better to talk about women with than Claudia? We have some very objective, crazy opinions that are out here, and we're excited to just dive into some of these topics that are affecting people in the world right now. And let's jam on it. So, share what are your thoughts on the topics that we talk about in the comments. We want to make this a conversation with you. It's not like we know everything. But these are going to be some fun topics. So let's go ahead and get freaking cranking. And then I'm sure we'll be talking about just some, random crap, that can bring some value. This podcast is all about bringing value, making an impact in people's lives. So let's get started. So masculinity. Guess who came up with the topic for masculinity and talking about women?
I came up with the masculinity.
Yes.
I don't know about women, but...
Oh, yeah, I added the women.
You added the women.
I added the women because you were here.
Okay.
So, basically, Claudia and I were in the car, we were talking, and basically, it was coming down to, hey, what are you going to talk about on the podcast? Because, they knew we were about to do a podcast. And she was like, you should be strategic and actually talk about something people want to hear about.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't really argue with that because I didn't have an answer for what we were going to talk about. I was just like, hey, we'll talk about whatever. So that's how this topic ended up coming up. So
nice.
How you feeling about the topic?
I like the topic. I think I don't know, I like that we have Claudia here.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if you and I were here, we'd probably just feed off of each other. Because I think we're very similar minded. So I think that we have Claudia as the person that's going to lay the law down.
It's going down. So what when you brought up the topic of masculinity, did any questions pop up, or what type of conversations were you thinking we'd be having today?
I was just curious, because I personally, I've heard a lot of people just talk about toxic masculinity and just, by conversations that I have with my girlfriends and stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I realized that maybe there is not a lot of masculine men out there, and I think I was interested to hear your guys' perspective.
What does that mean, masculine men?
Yeah, exactly. So first, I want to know what being.
It's so true. There are so many men that aren't masculine.
What's a masculine? What does masculine mean to you guys?
Masculine is, if you're a masculine man, you don't even need a definition. You're a freaking masculine man.
But what makes a man a masculine man, and what makes a man not as masculine man? I have my opinions and my things that I will share, but I just want to know what you think it means to be a masculine man.
That's a hard one.
Yeah.
Do you want to take it first? I think.
Yeah, sure. So I looked up the definition
I love
before.
I love you.
And it said exhibiting traits from a man. So it's a very okay, what does that mean?
That's exactly what I just said.
Yeah.
I said masculine men, they know they're a man.
Yeah.
You don't have to.
So what does it mean? What does it mean?
For me,
so why will you know that you're a masculine man?
For me, I guess and it's gonna sound I'm trying to this is just what I think. I think it's just someone that just takes responsibility, and holds themselves accountable and is disciplined. I think that's if I could pick three things of a masculine man, I think it's that. I think it takes responsibility, accountable, and disciplined. And obviously, there are things that fall under that, but I think that that's what a masculine man is. I think, like Claudia said, there's toxic masculinity, when you're a single guy and you're around all your friends, it's all about, oh, are you gonna get with this girl, or like going out like that. And I could see how, you know, that could be toxic masculinity, right? You might feel pressured, or you have to conform to a certain way of being.
Yes.
But I think in a broad sense, from what I've experienced and like what I've seen, like men, that truly masculine men,
yes,
those are the three things that I see like in common. It's like discipline, accountability, and responsibility.
What about just like getting your testosterone up though? Like what if you got like low testosterone?
Low testosterone, I think that you should see a doctor. I think
so do you think it has anything to do with masculinity, testosterone?
I think so.
Claudia said no. And
I think so.
Okay.
I mean, I guess if like that's a hormone, right? Like that's like what makes a man a man. Like, you know, the testosterone.
So if you have low testosterone, doesn't that mean you're not a masculine man?
Not necessarily. I wouldn't really. I think maybe biological,
I would say yes.
like you will have that, but it doesn't mean maybe. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this is possible. I'm not like a doctor, but I think it is possible that someone is like a masculine man, like is accountable, is responsible, is a provider, is vulnerable, takes care of his woman, takes care of his family, and maybe if you put him under blood test, it could come out that it doesn't have like a high testosterone, and that doesn't mean that he's not masculine. I think that just means your biological insides are not maybe where they're supposed to be, but I believe that you can be a masculine man with maybe
low testosterone. Like it could be under 200.
I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I don't know if there's like a science where because you don't have that testosterone where it needs to be, maybe you're acting a little.
I think you could be a man. I think you can totally be a masculine man with low testosterone.
I mean, any doctors, can you be a masculine man if your testosterone levels are low?
I'm gonna say yes.
Any doctors here?
I really
get it
like.
back to us with that.
Yeah,
Can we ask ChatGPT?
We could ask ChatGPT.
I mean, that's a good. I think I don't know if this question is like factual though.
Well, the thing about like what we're asking, right? Masculine, I think it's not like a thing that you can track, right?
Right.
It's not something that you can say for sure this is what it is. It's like subjective. So it's like. Whatever you think it is, whatever I think it is, it's like it can be different. Right?
I almost think like as long as you're being yourself, that's pretty masculine.
No, well, this is my opinion as a woman, and I don't know. I think there is like clear things where like a masculine man, you can see it and you can separate it from like a guy that is not masculine.
What are those things? Because I think that's interesting.
So, for example, like I tell you what, like a guy that you mentioned it, right? For example, a guy who like goes out and is like gonna be, it's gonna give on that peer pressure to like be a masculine man and like
hookup culture,
girls, like hook up with this girl, hook up with that other girl, right? So I think that like.
Is that masculine?
Part of, like, that's like a toxic like masculinity or whatever. But what I'm saying, like what separates to me is like a masculine man is a provider. He takes care of his family. He takes care of his woman. He is able to like lead the family or lead the relationship by showing up as like a masculine man, by talk about hard things, being vulnerable and like open up on like what's going on, having those conversations, kind of like understanding the like a woman wants to be taken care of, like that's like maybe even if she's responsible, even if she's like a boss babe or whatever,
yes, like
women still want to feel like taken care of, right? And I think that like a masculine man makes a feminine woman, right? Because if you are
100%.
not providing, you're not taking care of your family, you're like not having conversations with your partner, and doing all of those things behind her back, like hooking up or whatever. I think that is like not a masculine man, right? Because that's how you generate like masculine women. Because then the women want to fight. They're like, what's going on? Or they have to be the ones providing for their family because the man is not able to step up, right?
Masculine men, sex. What about sex?
What
about sex?
I mean, masculine men. I mean, you got to be dominant in the bedroom.
No. I guess.
I mean, right? Like you got when you say take care of, I'm just kidding with dominant.
Sure.
Just triggering people.
Sure.
But when it comes to masculinity, you gotta please your woman in the bedroom. I would say that's very important.
So where do you guys think, right? Because it's like, and I'm sure you probably have felt this way as like a man, right? Because Claudia speaks on like vulnerability, being open with your partner. Where do you guys think that, because I felt that feeling, right? Where it's just like, you know, I'm sure that you felt it like, hey, like rub some dirt in it, you know, get rid, like don't cry, like, you know.
Yeah.
So I think we're accustomed to growing up with that mentality of, at least, I mean, I know your dad is like super masculine, just like no BS. My dad too, I think they come from that generation of just like
mental toughness.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like,
I believe in that.
And how do you think that, how do you feel in those moments, and where does that come from, where it's like, man, I can't cry right now, or I got to be strong, or I got to do this.
Yeah, no, I definitely think mental toughness plays into masculinity because it's part of how you provide. It's part of how you do whatever it takes to, you know, like take care of your family and build that life. Because I think it's very non-masculine to just like give into the excuses and like kind of just that energy of just like like hey, go with the flow.
Yeah.
Like, you know. So yeah, I mean, I don't think that it has anything to do with holding back your emotions.
Sure.
Like, I think that emotions are incredibly important, that you feel the true emotions, you know? Like, feeling the emotions of, like, hey, this is really hard. Like, man, you know, like, this is tough, but I have to do it anyway, is what I think a masculine man does.
Yeah.
Because they do it even though they don't feel like doing it.
I have a question. So, do you feel that if you're vulnerable with your partner, does that make you less masculine?
Absolutely not. See, that's where I think it's all effed up.
I mean, but I just want to know, like, for example, you, like, if you were, like, you know, if it's...
I think that for me, it's more of like a trust and time thing. Like, if, like, for me, it works better if I'm not, like 100% vulnerable, if I'm just, like, meeting someone, talking to someone.
Sure.
I think I build that over time, but I think part of being masculine is, like, for me, like the vulnerability that I've done in the past, where if I'm in a relationship and I need to work on something, or there is something that's going on in my life that is going to affect the relationship, like in the past, one of the biggest, like, I think stressor in relationships a lot is like finances, right? So if you're financially, you know, going through something, you have to tell your partner.
Yes.
Even though, like, my initial instinct is, like, I don't want to tell my partner that, like, I'm financially going through something.
Of course.
But I think that, you know, kind of flipping that mindset of, hey, if I communicate this and I just if my actions show that I'm working on it and she knows, I think that women appreciate that. I think the right woman would appreciate that, right?
That's some real value.
Yeah, I think that switching that mindset, like using vulnerability to your, I don't want to say advantage, but recognize it more as a superpower rather than a weakness.
And then I have another question. So, because one of the things that I feel the reason why maybe we don't have like an abundance of masculine men per se, is because...
So that's how you feel? You feel there's not a lot of masculine men?
I mean, I mean, obviously, like, you obviously are a masculine man. There's other, you know, Alan. But, like, I feel like there's other... in my opinion. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, like, I feel like there is some, like, not an abundance of masculine men.
Yeah.
And I think it's because men are not vulnerable a lot of times between themselves. Like, and I feel that it's harder. Like, yeah, of course, even if you share with a woman what you're going through, like that woman is gonna try to be with, like, understand you, but you know she's never gonna understand you exactly what you're going through because she's not a man. You know,
Right.
She doesn't feel the same pressures that like a man has. So you know, maybe I can see why it will be a little bit scary to be vulnerable with a woman because she might not understand exactly what you're going as a man, right? As a provider. And I feel that correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that between guys there's like that conversation of like, hey, I'm going through this, you know, finance, or like I'm going through that. And maybe like I think that is like real masculinity where you could have those conversations with your group of men, right? And like build each other up because only you guys understand what you're really going through, and a woman wouldn't like understand the maybe the exact same way. What do you guys think? Like, do you think that you are vulnerable or not as vulnerable, or like you like talk about those conversations between you guys?
I think a genuine friendship is built on vulnerability and connection, right? Like the deeper your friendship is with that person, the more that you're going to like tell them those vulnerable things, right? Like I don't think a masculine man, you know, is the type of person who just is vulnerable with everyone about everything in any way. It's like, but with your close friends,
with your close guys.
of course. Like, you know, today Al and I we were just talking about it, right? He was just like, hey, how are you, right? So like we're very close friends. So when we say how are you, like we really mean it.
Like we mean like, hey, give me everything.
Yeah, it's like, and I love the way that you said it today. You're like, hey, how are you, man? Like mental, spiritual, physically, emotionally. Like, man,
is that like a common thing that you do with like your friends? You know, like with your close friends.
Depends on the amount of time you have with them. Like, obviously, if it's just like quick things, we're not gonna be like, hey, how are you? And you just start crying on each other's shoulders. But 100%. Like today, we were out. We just came from. Like kind of hiking and doing stairs, you know, in a forest preserve, and so we had a great amount of time, and it was it's all about timing, right?
Yeah,
all about timing. Like we're always going to get deep with one another because that's the real stuff.
Yeah,
like we're not talking surface level.
Yeah, no, I think that there's a balance, right? I think that, like Tom said, you can't be vulnerable every time, right? You can't cry on each other's shoulder every time. I think that there have been moments where I've, you know, been vulnerable with my friends. And I kind of try to ask like that consistent question, like, hey, how are you physically, mentally, spiritually? Like, give me the real.
Yeah.
That's good. And I have like, I would say I have about like 4 like really close friends that I ask that to, right? Obviously I like try to ask everyone that I encounter.
How
like,
many women though?
How are you? Just one.
Just one.
Just one.
Just one.
This one.
Nice.
Yeah, you're not gonna get me caught up today.
But can we talk real quick about the movie theater? So there was this one time.
Hold on. We'll get to that.
Man, it's too good. All right, go ahead.
But what I would say is like, I'll use some real life examples, right? Like you recently, I know you were going through something maybe like a couple months ago. You were feeling down. When I heard that, and I know I'm not supposed to make it about myself,
right?
But I think as a human you do. And I was like, man, I need to be a better friend to Tom. That's why I ask you these questions like, hey, how are you spiritually, emotionally, mentally? Because, hey, there was a moment in time where you were going through something and I felt I could have done more to be there for you.
That's exactly what I thought. I was like, dang, Alan. No, I'm kidding.
No, it's true, man.
Dude,
it's
not
true.
At all, bro. No, but I appreciate it, bro.
But it's like, you know, you got to take that action. And there have been moments where, like, you know, I have a really close friend that when he went through something recently, and he came to my house like on a random Monday, and literally we had to like, you know, just stayed up like super late, and just talked about it, man. Talked through it. And there are like moments where you have to surround yourself around people that you trust, people that, you know, you're vulnerable as a man. But I also think that there are things that are constantly going to happen.
Yes.
Like you go through things every day. I go through things every day. Everyone goes through things every day, right? And I don't think that it's a bad idea. I don't think it's always necessary to feed that vulnerability. I think that when you need to, you should. But I think surrounding yourself around masculine men, like if I'm around Tom, you know, his energy is always so positive. His energy is always so high. And if I'm not having the greatest day, I might not feel the need to tell him. But if I'm around him, that alone, that energy that he's giving me is going to boost me. Like, I don't need to be vulnerable. Like, as long as I'm around masculine men, positive people, like that alone for me is enough that helps me get through those tough moments. Like, I don't need to tell you something that I'm going through, but if I'm around energy that's like, hey, like, we're going to make it the best day ever, we're going to kill it, like, that to me is super helpful because that keeps me going. I don't have to tell, like, you my problems.
Yes.
The energy that you give me is enough.
Nice.
So
basically, you want more masculine men in your life.
Yeah, I mean, but I feel like I feel like we surround ourselves with pretty like our circle, the circle that we share, or
absolutely
our own circles that sometimes mix. I think that for the most part, if I look at them,
we got some good masculine men.
Yeah, I think we got good energy around us.
Yeah, we got some great energy around us.
Yeah, but now you can.
Oh Lord! So going into the woman story. Oh my gosh! So this one day. Like, it's late at night. Like, I normally go to bed. Like, I try to wind down around, like, 9 o'clock or so.
Yeah.
Alan is like, yo, do you and Claudia want to come to the movies, man? There's this new movie. What was it, Spider-Man or something? I can't remember.
It wasn't... Well, there was a couple times. So, the time that I think you're talking about was... It was like a... I forgot. Tenet, it was called, the movie.
Okay.
And it was during COVID.
Yeah.
So... during that time, obviously, we couldn't really do like the normal thing,
right?
Just like go to the movies,
right?
So it was like a Tuesday night, and I wanted to see this movie, and it was like my first time going to the movies in like a year. I think it was most of everybody. So what I did was I just
Alan bought the entire theater out. He bought the entire theater out. He was like, Tom, we bought the theater out. I was like, what the heck? Can you do that? He's like, yeah, you just buy all the seats. I was like, oh my gosh, that's genius.
It was pretty cheap.
Yeah, of course he says that. That's what he said to all the people. Like, hey, just come on over. Anyway, he filled this theater. I didn't know at the time, but first of all, he like, I don't know. It's crazy. I just had to go because he bought the theater out, but it was like late at night, like 10 o'clock.
It was like 9. It was like 9 o'clock. Yeah.
So we went out, Claudia and I. We were so excited to see like what it's like to buy out the theater.
I don't think you went.
No, I went.
The first time? Or for Spider-Man? You went for Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, maybe she didn't. She
went one solo.
She went one. But both times, was it like? This is gonna be crazy. This is gonna be crazy if it happened both times. Because I only remember one time, but there were two.
Okay.
But when I went, I just remember, I walk in and Alan's like a concierge. He has like 3 women surrounding him. They're like, hey, do you want any drinks? Do you want any popcorn? So they basically just asked me if I wanted anything. They just like get you whatever you need.
Yeah.
And I could barely get to you because there were these women just surrounding you. Then we go into the theater. He's like, all right. And then they're carrying the stuff. I'm like, I can carry it or whatever. Anyway, we walk in the theater. And then it's filled with women. There's just women everywhere. Like, there's a couple guys. Like, a couple of his... Like, how he said he had 4 friends earlier? He had maybe 2 of those guys with. And then the rest were all women.
Yeah.
And then Alan... Like, there weren't enough seats in the spot that we were going, so he flicks his fingers a couple times, and then the whole row gets up and moves over.
That's hilarious.
And then makes enough room for us to sit down with your other 3 women. And I was just like, oh, holy crap, hey, everyone. They're like, hey. And then, the movie started, and anyway, did I stay for the whole thing? Or
I think you left early.
I had to leave early because
it was late. It was late.
I think I fell asleep in the movie.
I think you did, too.
Yeah. But... Yeah. Holy crap, that was so much fun. What was it like when you went, babe?
I mean, there was a lot of people.
Was it similar?
I don't recall explicitly being like women overall. I recall a good mix of like.
Did he do the flick with you?
No.
Okay, so he did rent out the whole theater again?
He did.
Crazy.
Oh my goodness.
This man. So, dude, you're so awesome, man. We have so many women stories with Alan, but we're not going to talk about them because we got to keep you coming for the next. If we gave it all to you in one episode, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then plus Alan is gonna kill me.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's the past.
He's gonna kill me.
It's the past.
It's the past. This is how we learn.
COVID times.
That's how we learn and grow. It's how we learn and grow.
For sure.
One other thing I wanted to ask you guys about masculinity was, can a gay man be masculine?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. 100%.
A lot of people would argue that.
Why? Do you know why?
I just think that there's a lot of...
He doesn't like a gay man doesn't like women. Is that what is like hard to believe they could be masculine?
I don't know what I'm just like, I think it's kind of common sense that like a lot of people would argue that and say, hey, like how could you be masculine if you were gay?
I would say though, like, I don't know.
Do you guys think that? Do you guys think that people think that or
no?
not?
We all have like masculine and feminine energy. Like I think they like doesn't mean like a gay man could be gay and you might not even know he's gay because he's so masculine.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that it just depends on the. I think it just depends on the person. Like, I've seen relationships between like, family members that are gay, just people that I hang around with that are like gay, and I find that their relationships are very similar to like how it would be between me and a woman, because I do feel like there is like, if you're in a relationship with if you're a gay couple, I think there is still that one masculine energy in the relationship.
Exactly.
Even like a lesbian couple, like I think there's a masculine woman in that relationship.
Yeah, very rarely do you see like the two feminine energies of them both being very feminine, or like the men where they're both very masculine. So that's interesting, right? And I totally agree. I mean, we learned a lot about energies. And, we went to a Tony Robbins relationship trip, and like literally every single day, they reinforced having us do things that like would increase our masculine, increase our feminine, and it's important to have both.
Sure.
But like what he was saying is that like the best relationships have that polarity. Where like one person is that dominant masculine and one person is that dominant feminine energy, and it creates a lot of beauty, a lot of like healthiness in a relationship, balance in a relationship.
I don't know if I could if a relationship would work with two like dominance or two people that are submissive. It just I don't think it works that way. I think that it's counter, like even though they're the same person, it's counter intuitive to the relationship. Yeah,
it's like if you're two masculine energies, you're gonna fight like crazy,
I
right?
mean, we for example, we had it like in that, like I think that when we went through the Tony Robbins, it kind of helped us
big time. Yeah, I needed to get more masculine,
and I needed to be more feminine because I was operating, and then still are in like some areas in life, but like operating from that like. I tap too much into my masculine
I have good questions
to like, to like achieve things.
Like when the pots and pans come out with the Latinas, is that when they get into that or no? Is that
I don't think
and
that's
canceled.
I have never come out with pants and things. When have you seen me with pants?
I didn't say you did. I'm just asking in general. I'm saying like when that happens, like I'm just curious if it is that.
No.
So I have a question for you guys.
Let's hear it. Please.
Well, you needed to be more masculine, you said.
Yeah.
You needed to be more feminine. Mm-hmm. Where did that dynamic come from? And how was that dynamic pre-Tony Robbins event? Like, how did you feel in the relationship? How did you feel? Because in, like, my relationship currently, I feel like the masculine one.
Yes.
I can't imagine not feeling like that. So I'm sure you still felt like the masculine one.
Of course.
But you noticed there was like a,
that could be more. I'll answer on my part what the feminine is. Like how I was feeling like the masculine.
Cool.
So, like, I think that I didn't even realize it. I thought it was just like, he doesn't understand what I'm saying, and he gets very, like, sensitive to, like, the things that I'm speaking out. But I didn't realize that the way that I was bringing things up was very, like, aggressive, very masculine, very, like, this is it, which you can't really influence a man that way. Like, the feminine energy is over powerful than the masculine energy. We just need to know how
let's hear that again.
Tap into it.
Did you hear it? Did you hear what she said? The feminine energy is more powerful than the masculine energy. Feminine energy
For women, yeah.
It's the most powerful energy.
It's the most powerful, I think, overall.
It's the most powerful. Feminine energy is the most powerful energy in our
masculine
It'll bring you
energy.
to your knees.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
It'll bring us to our knees.
Okay.
If a woman comes, for example, with all that masculine energy, it's gonna be like, no, because you are also in that masculine energy. But if she comes with the same thing, but just in a very feminine way, and feminine energy, like, she'd probably get you to do what she wants you to do.
Yeah, because men are easily influenced.
I mean, with that true feminine energy, it's so beautiful.
Yeah. Exactly. So, like, one of the things, for example, also, like, as you know, Tom is very, like, more like an open book, very, like, he sees always the best in people.
Sure.
And very he trusts people a lot. Versus me, I'm more like reserved. Like, it takes time for me to trust, and so I felt like I was tapping a lot into my masculine energy, because I was like, well, he's not like, protecting us. He's not like, people like are constantly like taking advantage in some ways, because he's very trustworthy, and
he was putting you in your masculine energy
by not like doing that, right? So that was something that like we realized that when we were in the Tony Robbins, and then I'm like, oh, well, that's why we're fighting a lot, because and I'm more in my masculine, because I feel that feel like I'm being protected in a way, as far as like, I got your back, like, so, yeah, that was one thing for me.
How are those conversations, like, because to me, I would have to imagine, right? Like, if I were to hear from my wife, partner, girlfriend, whatever, hey, you're putting me in my masculine energy because you're not protecting me. Like, that's a pretty, and I know the way that you deliver that message is probably way more feminine, but that's what it is, right? How did you like internalize that conversation? Because to me, I would feel like, man, like, that's harsh, right? That's tough to hear as a man.
First of all, I love harsh. I love transparency. I just love beating around the bush. Just tell me how it is, and I like it, because to me, like, feedback is love. Like, when you tell me what I need, what you need from me, and like what, like any improvements or anything like that. Like, I love that, dude. So like when I found this out, and like, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is awesome, because now here's an opportunity to improve. And I also took it as a freaking slap in the face. Like, what the F? Are you serious? Like, exactly what you just said. The ego hurts. My ego freaking took a huge hit. And what happens, like, and this is very common in my life in all areas, if something real, like, kind of like
obvious
bad happens, like, that's really the best way to explain it where everyone will understand. If something real tragic or crazy happens, it's like, I wouldn't say tragic necessarily, but just like something real intense or bad, like, that you wouldn't want to happen. Like, that motivates me a lot, like, because what other reaction can you have? Like, I'm going to fight that thing back with, like, I need to come back with even way more energy than that, right? So if there's something heavy, I got to come back extra heavy.
I feel like for men, and I felt this way before, same how you feel, I'm sure, and I know we talked about this before.
Right.
It takes, like, a really, I don't want to say, like, bad, like, just use the way that you said it, bad thing for us to, like, the light bulb to turn on.
Yeah.
Be like, crap, I got to change that.
You got to, like, hit a low.
Yeah, as opposed to, like, how I would like to is recognize it earlier, right? Which is, I think this is great, because it's like, hey, other people can learn from this. But Claudia started talking about the Tony Robbins event.
Yes.
And
I was saying that, like, I don't think we would have been able to pinpoint it where, like, we were acting on, like, there was no polarity, right? Like, we were either both on our masculines, or both of them, like, are feminine as well, because, the way that I was bringing things up, like, didn't really help, right?
So, and what I'll say is, before Alan has this question, because he has so many questions, I'm sure, we were very, like, I was masculine, you were feminine.
Yeah.
Very much so, but it's just we weren't aware. So like when conflicts would happen, that's usually when this would happen. Either conflicts or just like certain patterns, right? It's not like this is happening all the time, right? But we were just completely unaware of it, which I agree with you 1,000%. Like once we became aware of it, it was like a light bulb. This is a game changer. Just knowing that, hey, one person being in their masculine and one person being in their feminine just makes the relationship amazing.
And ladies, you could get a lot more things.
Let's go. And men, let's go. You want this. Trust me, you want this.
Yeah.
What was your question though?
My question was, you guys, I know you guys, so you guys seemingly like, and I think it was more so after the Tony Robbins event, like you guys started investing more into your relationship, right? You guys started doing more things together as far as like seminars. You know, you are very work focused. So for me, hearing that you did a relationship seminar was a little crazy because it's like not work.
Yeah. 7 days, morning to night.
Exactly.
Disconnected just about the relationship, our relationship.
Yeah. So
completely focused.
I guess like what was there like a turning point where you just, hey, we have to invest more in our relationship? What was that? And what are the benefits of, because I think most people, like obviously Tony Robbins events are super expensive.
Yes.
So most people might not think, and obviously a lot of people don't have access to those events, right? But there are other ways to invest in your relationship.
Of course.
But, you know.
Just this podcast. Like
exactly.
you take the things from this podcast and your relationship will, like, it'll 10x.
Sure.
It'll 10x.
So I guess my question is, what was that light bulb that switched for you that, hey, I need to invest in my relationship?
Yes.
And then what are the benefits that you've seen from investing in the relationship more?
Positive. So number one was, like, we were basically pushed into it because it was part of the package. I mean, I was super excited about it, but I remember you were a little hesitant, right? It was like, oh man, 7 days relationship event. It's like, we're busy at work, all this and that. And I know you were a little bit hesitant, and you know, honestly, I was a little hesitant too, right? But literally after day one, I was like, this is better than any other self-development event that I've ever done, because it's like, it's focused on the person that you spend literally the most time with and how to like enhance that relationship and literally like doing life together, growing together. And from that was definitely a light bulb for me of like, what was this, 3 years ago, would you say? 3 years ago. And 3 years ago. So basically, like from that point forward, it was like, we have to grow more together because it's so special growing together, because if one partner is growing like this and the other person is not, like that relationship is really gonna struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
You're outgrowing someone.
You're outgrowing someone, and like you're not aligned. You're not having the same conversations. Like you're almost like growing apart. Right? So that was a breakthrough for me of like, wow, I need to bring my woman with me. And it's not that I wasn't thinking that before, but it really, like, one of the cool things about doing things together, whether you're just, you know, there's like a million, you know, you say access, like people need more access. There's a million courses online. There's free information on YouTube, right? Like, just watch it together, talk about it together, because that's what's really grown us. Like, we'll do some self-development, like frequent self-development where we both watch videos together, we take notes together, and then now we can have those same conversations, hold each other accountable. We're growing as a team. And that's been so much, it's like so much fun when you're doing it with someone.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's like magnifying effects.
Yeah. What are both for both of you, what is your relationship like now? How has it improved? What do you guys feel? How do you guys feel? What energies are you guys mostly in? Do you guys feel good?
I feel amazing. I love our relationship. I think it's perfect. Like, even before the Tony Robbins event, like, I was extremely happy. And to me, it's just about growth, right? Like, I pray all the time, like almost every night with you that, hey, like, I just pray that I'm a better husband to you, that our relationship grows with God, right? And that's what makes me happy, is just knowing that we're both growing. Like, it doesn't, when I say it's perfect, I mean, like, hey, like, we're growing, right? Obviously, there's tons of challenges, tons of conflicts, tons of issues and stuff like that. But comparatively, it's just the awareness and the happiness, and you feel a little more control when you understand some of the self-awareness of like how to make it better, right? And just like that bipolar, but there's certain things that are just game changers, and I have two of them. One of them was the polarity of like the masculine and the feminine energy, right? And it's good to have both, right? There's times when, like Claudia, it's beautiful for her to be in her masculine and use that, right? When she's like closing down the sale at a certain moment, she has to get more aggressive with a client, you know? And there's certain times where like the feminine, for me, like being like, you know, super sweet or something like that, like there's certain times where that energy, don't take it like, hey, you just need to be in that one energy. You should be using both, right? And then the second thing is unconditional love. Like that one, I think, is even more powerful. I know it is. Like that's probably the most powerful thing, which is just like, hey, like love your partner unconditionally, no matter what, no matter how they're treating you. Claudia could be spitting in my face, right? And like my reaction, like, right, you have to get past that ape-like reaction of just like hating that person or spitting back in their face, and actually give them love and know that if someone's being angry or hurtful to you, it's because they're hurting inside. It's not because they're like not liking you or they're wanting to hurt you. Yeah. You know, and their reaction to them hurting might be that they're actually trying to hurt you, right? But that's not really their intentions, right? It's because of them and they're hurting inside. And when you learn that when your partner or anyone is treating you poorly, it's because they're unhappy with themselves. You can actually like, you know, step into that unconditional love of like, man, this person's going through something, right? Versus what most people do, which is having that crazy reaction of, and then now you have two masculine energies, and it's just a ball of like masculine energies. They compete. So it's just constant competition to like, and then it blows up and it explodes. And I can only imagine how many relationships have ended like that.
Yeah, I know. For sure. So you talked about like closing, like Claudia needs to be in her feminine energy and closing a sale. I've talked about this with you, but I kind of want to know from your point of view. You guys work together, right? So you guys you're obviously the president of the company. You work in the company, within the company. How does that dynamic affect your relationship? How, like everything, how do you feel? Do you feel your relationship is benefited from that dynamic or been a little bit challenging?
I mean, it's been great. I mean, it works. And
sounds horrible.
And right now,
sounds like you're about to lay some.
This is good honest. Though. It's we got to keep it real.
Be honest and like.
Has to be honest.
It has to be. There's been challenges, and I think now we're in a point where it's better. But I think like at the beginning, or like even, like 3 years ago, we were talking about, it was more challenging because it was hard to separate for me at that point, like personal versus work. And also I was trying to be more, like I was tapping too much into my masculine energy, that I wanted to like control things and have more, like more of like a say so in like everything. And so I was more like in that energy, so that's when it was kind of challenging, being like not being able to separate the hard conversations about work to not affect our personal life at home, right? And sometimes like I will carry it with me and be like, oh, like you said this earlier at work, so you know. I think now is better because like I am also more into that feminine energy, so I'm like, hey, he's the one like doing, taking all the controls. I trust him no matter what, and it just like allows me to still do my best and express my opinions, but I'm not trying to control everything. Like I understand there's things where I could say something and it's beneficial, and so there's some other things that like and we also understand now that we don't have to agree with everything. Like we could be aligned without like agreeing, right? So I think that has helped us a lot too, because before it was like we wanted like 100% buy-in from the other in order to like make a decision. And now we just realize like, hey, we don't have to agree on everything, on certain things 100%. We can just trust the, you know, each other, and that's it. Definitely, I would recommend for people to like do the work on themselves, because we talk about being self-aware, and you know, if you've heard the quote like you can't pour from an empty cup, I think that's very true. I think like if you become more self-aware, because we're always a projection, right? So like we are like making assumptions sometimes based on like what we're thinking that person is thinking, and just being able to be more self-aware of why you are, you know, thinking whatever you're thinking or acting a certain way will like help your relationship overall, and just being more aware of like you know, your own things, so then it could be better. Because sometimes we focus on like, oh, I want to have this person be like this or be like that or do this or do that. But if you just focus on yourself, then it will like transfer to the relationship. And also I think for us, like getting to know your partner, like spending time, there's a lot of free things like the 5 love languages, like a bunch of, I mean, there's so many things online now, like understanding like if your partner is like an anxious avoidant type after conflict, or if they need like they're either anxious or they're avoidant, right? And like little things like that, I think it will like it helps your relationship. I feel like relationships need nurturing, right, to be able to grow and constantly like working on them. So,
yeah, and when you start diving into these topics online, it's like, oh my gosh, you can just learn so much. You can become so much more self-aware. What about you?
I think the biggest thing for me is, obviously we talked about a lot about your guys' relationship towards, you know, the second half and how you guys have grown. And I think the biggest ending comments that I had really is for the men out there, take responsibility. Like, you know, don't wait for anyone. Like, and this just goes for everything, like everything in life. Don't wait for anyone to tell you to do something. Like, take action, like educate yourself. If you feel like your relationship is going through something, don't ignore it. I think that, you know, there are so many things out there, like you guys said, that we can use to educate ourselves, to better our relationship. And I think the biggest thing, like I mentioned, like a man can do, a masculine man can do, or any masculine energy. If you're the masculine energy in your relationship, it's really just taking responsibility. Like, hey, if my relationship can be better, take action to get better, right? And really push your partner, explain to your partner, hey, I want to be better in this. And really just, that's like the most masculine thing, is just recognizing a change and taking the action. You know, don't wait for her to do it. Women, if, you know, you feel like your man is not, you know, taking steps to, you know, be the masculine man to create those solutions, create that positivity in the relationship, do it in a way that, you know, learn more about him, learn about maybe why he's not like that, look at him with empathy, but also set your standards high, set high expectations, because that's the only way that someone can grow, is if you have those high expectations for yourself, for how you want to be treated, for your relationship. That's only going to, it's either going to do one of two things. It's either, unfortunately, it's not a relationship that you're going to be in very long because you're growing and you guys are going to outgrow each other, or you're going to be that catalyst to push him to be the man that you want him to be. Or, you know, put him in that masculine energy. So.
Ooh! You're going to want to rewind what you just heard. Alan, you just spit the fire. They have to play that back 2-3 times. That is life-changing, dude. That is so nice, man. Love that. And then I'll end with, all right, 2 things. Love yourself unconditionally, and then hold yourself accountable. Very similar to what Alan was saying. Just hold yourself accountable. Like, loving yourself unconditionally does not mean settling. You know, don't be a sleeping dog, right? Make sure that you're growing every day, and that you're just a different person today than you were yesterday, right? Even if it's like the smallest progress, progress is progress. Progress creates happiness. And thank you so much for tuning in to Maximum Hustle with Tom Self Alan and Claudia. Love you guys. Let us know in the comments what you thought about this episode, what you thought about any of the topics. We would love to hear like your opinions on all the things that we talked about, and let us know how we can improve this podcast and bring you more value. All right, let's go out and kill it.